time! Lesson time! Happy lesson time is here yet again. Module 6, Lesson 6. Let's do it. What are we doing? Well, this. We're going to use area models and number line to represent mixed numbers. Mixed numbers, okay, remember what that is. The units of ones, tenths, and hundredths. Okay, so there will only be 3 digits involved here. We're not going to go out to tens and hundreds and thousands. Okay, just ones, tenths, hundredths. We'll do it, of course, in both fraction and decimal forms, not to make more work, but to make life easier for you because you know fractions already. Yeah, let's do it. Counting by hundredths. Notice we're skip counting by what? By 5 hundredths here, and then we'll go back and look at something interesting. So let's do it together. 0 hundredths, 5 hundredths, 10 hundredths, 15 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 25 hundredths, 30 hundredths. Now, what do you notice? Perhaps you notice that some of these, yes, we could quite easily find an equivalent with tenths. So think 10 pennies is 1 dime, 20 pennies is 2 dimes, 30 pennies is 3 dimes. So voila! 0 hundredths is 0 tenths, 10 hundredths equal to 1 tenth, 20 hundredths, 2 tenths, 30 hundredths, 3 tenths. Now you might be wondering, can we express these in tenths? Not in any kind of standard fractional form, no. Okay, this is review. So we're going to kind of go through this. I'm not going to explain what we're doing. If you are confused, go back to lesson 5 because that's where we taught this. 3 hundredths, write it as a decimal. 0.03, yes, right? The 3 is in the hundredths place. 5 hundredths. 0.05, 5 in the hundredths place. And by the way, I'm saying how to write it. You still read this as 5 hundredths as a math number. I'm saying, how do you write it? How do you write 8 hundredths? 0.08, 8 hundredths. 4 hundredths? 0.04, 4 in the hundredths place, 4 hundredths. 14 hundredths, same thing. 0.14. Notice that we read the number 14. What place am I in? Hundredths. 17 hundredths. 0.17. 17 hundredths. How do we write 53 hundredths? 0.53. 53. What place am I in? Hundredths. Great. 100 hundredths. We know that's equal to 1 whole, right? And we write it out to here. Notice I could read this number as 100. What place am I in? Hundredths. Beauteous. This is going to get squishy. You'll see what I mean. 4, what do we have? 4 what? 4 hundredths. The value is 4 hundredths. Good. How about now? We have a row of 5 and 3 more. Okay, so 8 hundredths. Very good. We have a group of 10. 1 more. So total is 11 hundredths, and we're going to break that down in a minute, don't you worry. 1 more makes 12 hundredths. Okay, great. All right, so now let's write that as a decimal. 12 hundredths. We just did this, right? 0.12, right? There it is. Now write 12 hundredths as a fraction. Okay, so 12 hundredths as a fraction. That's actually surprisingly easy to do, right? 12 hundredths. I'm out of room. I can't fit on this slide anymore. Send Aunt Bertha my love. All right, so now let's decompose that value as a fraction and a decimal. Some breathing space. Okay, here's 12 hundredths and here's 12 hundredths, yes. So let's decompose that. So we're going to break it down into how many hundredths plus how many hundredths? Well, it's 12, right? So what's in, 10 and then 2, right? So 10 hundredths, 2 hundredths. What can we do with that 10 hundredths? I bet you know. That's right, it's equal to 1/10, and the 2 hundredths stays the same. Great. Can we do the same thing with the decimal? You betcha. All right, let's do it. 12 hundredths. We're going to actually write the same thing, 10 hundredths, aren't we? But as a decimal, there's 10 hundredths. And then 2 hundredths. What can we do with the 10 hundredths? We can rewrite it in decimal form as well as 1/10, and then plus 2 hundredths. Now here's the mathematical moment. Watch. Notice something here? 12 hundredths, 12 hundredths. 10 hundredths, 10 hundredths. 2 hundredths, 2 hundredths. 1/10, 1/10. 2 hundredths, 2 hundredths. Ah, yes. You say the same thing in both fraction and decimal form. Moving on. Oh, this is a doozy. All right, we can handle it though. We have the perimeters of 4 rectangles. Remember, perimeter, measuring around. How far is it around? So it's measured just in straight centimeters or meters. There's no squares. That's area, squarea. So we're just take one question at a time here. Okay, which rectangle has the smallest perimeter? All right, well, you see they're all in different forms, right? And so let's put them all in the same format so we can easily compare them and find which one is the smallest. So just rewriting them here, no change. 54 centimeters is what fraction of a meter? Well, picture a meter stick, and there's 100 centimeters there, so 54 is 54 out of 100. 54 out of 100, 54 hundredths meter. Okay, see, so I just put it into hundredths of a meter. This one already is in that form. Great. How about down here with the 8/10 meter? All I have to do is write it in fractional form, 8/10 meter. But then wait, I say, well, everything else I want to put into hundredths, right? Okay, so what is 8/10? Well, I can multiply it by 10/10 and get how many hundredths? 80 hundredths. Very good. Now, why didn't I do anything with the 54 meters? Okay, now let's think about it. 54 hundredths meter, or 54 centimeters, is less than a meter. It's about yay. 69 hundredths meter is 69 centimeters, about yay. 8/10 meter, or 80 hundredths meters, or we could also call it 80 centimeters, about yay. Okay, whatever. About, in this range here. 54 meters would be 54 of these meter sticks. Unless you go to a school in, I don't know where, you could not line up 54 meter sticks in a straight line in your classroom. You'd have to go out into a very long stretch of hallway, because that's about half a football field of 54 meters. That's a decent distance, I mean, it's not like huge, but it's a decent distance. So this one, C, is clearly like so far beyond. All the other ones are less than a meter. They're centimeters. And the C there, the 54 meters, is so far beyond all the others. So we know it's not the smallest. All right. So now, which one is the smallest? Okay, obviously A is. Okay, great. Cha-ching. All right. Now C, going back to C, how many meters less than a kilometer is that? And I actually really like this question because, like I was just saying, that's going to be like down a hallway at school, a decently long hallway is 54 meters. Try to picture, if you can, 54 of those meter sticks would be a lot of meter sticks all lined up in that's decently long. But it still doesn't hold a candle to a single kilometer. Kilometer has how many meters in it? 1,000. That kilo means 1,000 meters. Kilo, meter, kilometer. And you say kilometer. Okay, that's what you say. So it's 1,000. So if we say the kilometer is 1,000 meters, well then the perimeter of C is how much less? Well, how much less? We're obviously subtracting, right? Okay, so we do 1,000 minus 54. We get 946. So even that length of your hallway is just a smallest part of a single kilometer. Kilometers is a decent distance, comparable to a mile. So it's something that you'd either be going on a long walk or maybe even hop in the car if you're going a few kilometers, but not just a little stroll down the hallway. Lastly, and I'm spending some time on this, by the way, not to belabor it, because there's actually a lot of good learning to be had here. So stick with me, kid. Compare the perimeters of B and D, all right? Which rectangle has the greater perimeter? How much greater? Well, we had already said that D was 81 hundredths, so obviously 81 hundredths is more than 69 hundredths. All right. But the question then is how much greater? To find how much more, we're going to subtract, of course, yes. So 80 hundredths minus 69 hundredths. Do the subtrazione there. What do you get? Well, you can add up. You can go from 69 to 70 is 1, and then 10 more, so it's 11. So the difference is 11 hundredths. So D is 1100ths meter greater than rectangle B's perimeter. And remember, 1100ths meter is 11 centimeters. About yay, not too long. All right. Whew! Now we're getting to the actual lesson, and you're going to find that today's lesson is pretty straightforward. So we're just going to use area models to do mixed numbers with ones, tenths, and hundredths. What does that look like? It looks like this. All right. Here's a number, 1 and 22 hundredths. All right. So let's use an area model to shade in that number. There's the 1 whole, and then 22 hundredths. Easy enough. How do we write that as a decimal? Same thing. 1 and, now meaning decimal point, 1 and 22 hundredths. 1 and 22, what place am I in? Hundredths. Could I call this number, this is just a bonus for you, could I call this number 122 hundredths? Yes, I could, because wouldn't this in money be 122 cents, 122 pennies, 122 hundredths? Yes. But reading this as a math number, we would say 1 decimal point, there it is, pop, and 22 hundredths. Beautiful. Moving on. We're going to take that same number, boom, and I'm going to say, let's do this now on a number line. You'll see it's straightforward. Look, there's 1, 22 hundredths. Notice though that the 20 hundredths is written as 2 tenths because isn't that so? 20 hundredths equals 2 tenths. I think you're beginning to catch on here. Let's do some more. All right, here's a different number. Zing, 3 and 46 hundredths. How would I write that as a decimal? Same thing, 3 and 46 hundredths. All right, 3 and 46 hundredths. There it is on the number line. Notice though, I'm being cheap and cheesy here. I don't feel like drawing that old number line. So I know what 3 looks like on a number line. I'm not a kindergartner. So then I'm just going to do that starting from 3. So that's the 3, 46 hundredths. Beautiful. Guess what? Just a little bit left. All right. Now we're going to match the unit form, okay, where you're naming the units, like ones, tenths, hundredths, to the decimal and fraction form. What does that look like? It looks like this. Here's a number. We'd say 3.8 is how you'd write it. 3 and 8 tenths. All right? Notice that the decimal point does an important thing. Everything over there to the left of that decimal point, those are whole numbers. Everything to the right is all less than 1. In fact, the further you go out there, and this is mind-blowing, isn't it? The further you go out there, the smaller and smaller the number gets. So if I wrote 3.899999999, that 9 way down there is like so tiny, it's nothing we'd use in any daily life. So important just note here what the decimal point does. All right, now let's move on. Let's write that 3 ones, 8 hundredths in decimal form, okay? 3 ones and then an 8 in the hundredths place. Notice we have the 0 because we have 0 tenths there. Now, are these the same? 8 tenths, 8 hundredths? Are they different? Yes, they are different. Now look, and this shows why. Look, 8 tenths, well that's equal to 80 hundredths, isn't it? 8 dimes equals 80 pennies. And in fact, looking at these in terms of money, and this is looking ahead where you have to start comparing decimals, and that I'm telling you, kind of warning you, that gets a little tricky unless you really stick to this now. 8 tenths is equal to 80 hundredths. So if you were comparing these two numbers here, greater than, less than, equal to, well, 8 tenths is more than 8 hundredths. And this shows you why. Because it's 80 hundredths is obviously more than 8 hundredths. If these were money, $3.80 is more than $3.08. Beauteous. Now let's just do it as an area model here. Note the joke. There we go. 80 hundredths equals 8 tenths. I proved it. You can't say it's not so. 80 hundredths equals 8 tenths. They are the same. I can prove it again to you, not just with an area model, but mathematically by dividing by a value of 1, 10 tenths. 80 hundredths divided by 10 tenths is 8 tenths. Is it not? Yes, it is. You know it is. Don't try to... Okay, anyway. Now you're onto the problem set where you're doing exactly what you're doing. There it is, a mixed number in fractional form. You'll write it in decimal form. Shade in 1 and 1500ths. They try to throw you by giving you an extra one here that you don't need, okay? And then do it on the number line. Same thing there. This one actually is similar, but you're just going to, you have a number line that just goes from 2 to 3, from 7 to 8. So really you're only concerned with the fractional part. All right, I'll leave that to you. Think in terms of money will help you. And here, now they're just giving it to you, raw data crunching here. 1, and this is unit form, 1, 1, 2 hundredths. Write that as a fraction and a decimal. And I would encourage you to write the fraction first, because that will be a help to you in writing the decimal form. And then more connected the dots. And you will notice that there are 5 things here, and 4 there, and 4 there. And yet, they will all be used, because it says some have more than one match, okay? Exit ticket, as usual, same thing but shorter. And when you get to the homework, what do? You got it. Hop over to the homework time video to work through that. And look what we have done. Yet again, we've finished another wonderful Eureka math lesson. Congratulations to you and I both, and to the world. Glory, glory, hallelujah. And I will see you again. And next time, it is once again lesson time.